welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle, from tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/192, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or call the voicemail hotline 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and a happy 192nd edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name is Tim Mooney, and I'm very excited to be bringing you yet another edition in the month of MJ. This is actually the final episode of MJ's 3-episode run. We are continuing with another bit of bicycle touring competition. We continue our competitive streak as we've been doing, and we choose a poker full house hand of 5 touring routes. 3 Adventure Cycling Association routes here in the United States, and 2 wildcards, which include a couple of international rides as well. You get to decide who draws the better hand. You can go to pedalshift.net/192 to cast your ballot by the end of January. And also a reminder that polls are still open for episode 191's draft. You can vote there at pedalshift.net/191. I'm super curious if you like this format. I think it's kind of fun every once in a while, and I'm super curious what you think. You can shoot an email to me at pedalshift@pedalshift.net for thoughts. Some of you have already done that, and the feedback has been really fun so far. Lots of suggestions on different ways to approach it, and a lot of folks questioning each of our choices along the way. And frankly, that is just part of the game and part of the fun. So without further ado, here comes the final installment of the month of MJ and our poker hand of bicycle touring routes. Hope you enjoy. All right, folks, welcome to yet another, it's the month of Mysterious James here in January 2020, and we are continuing. This is actually the final episode. It's a little bittersweet for the month of Mysterious James. On today's episode, we are doing Pedalshift bicycle route poker. And the way this is going to work is it's admittedly a bit of a hack, but here, microphone moving out of the way. James and I have also been drinking through all of this. You may have figured this out here in week 3 of this. James and I have been drinking throughout all of this process. We are now drinking the Lil Ben's Milk Stout from Antietam Brewery. Thanks to James Forsythe for bringing this. It's quite good. James, any thoughts on it? Bring that mic a little bit closer to you. And what's your take on the Lil no apostrophe Ben's?
Smooth and milky. This is how I like my stouts.
It's quite good. Okay, so in this episode, James and I did the draft last episode. This episode, we're going to be playing bicycle route poker. And how is this going to work? Both of us are going to be building full houses. If you are unfamiliar with poker as James is, as I had described to him what a full house was, in poker, a full house is a 3 of a kind and a 2 of a kind in cards. Cards are those things with those like queens and kings and numbers on them, right? Okay, so we're going to make this a lot simpler, and it's going to be, I'm sorry folks from outside of America, we're going to make this American-centric. The 3 of a kind are going to be established Adventure Cycling Association routes in, it looks like it's just all North America. Actually, James, you're looking at them. Yes, there is one that has Canadian components, so we'll call this a North American thing, but it's very American-centric. So 3 choices in our hands must be ACA established bicycling routes. Our 2 of a kinds are wild cards, which completely destroys the whole poker hand thing. I know, don't write me, poker people. The other 2 are going to be wild cards. Now, the rules are, as we agreed to ahead of time, is that because the ACA routes can be really long, wildcards can contain components of ACA routes. For example, the ACA route, an ACA route includes the Pacific Coast route. A wildcard, a legit wildcard, could be the Oregon coast, for instance. So James could, for instance, choose as his ACA and exclusively take it the Pacific Coast route, but I could take an Oregon Coast wildcard, and both would be exclusive to the other. So if James took the Pacific Coast as his ACA route, I could not choose a Pacific Coast as my ACA route. If I took the Oregon Coast as a wildcard, he could not take the Oregon coast as a wild card, but could take the Pacific Coast route. Hopefully that makes sense. We will referee that as we go along. The other interesting aspect of all of this is there is no order to how you have to choose. On the screen in front of us right now, and we will share this in the show notes at pedalshift.net/192, pedalshift.net/192, you will see what we end up filling our hands with. You will be able to vote. Hi, Milk Stout, at pedalshift.net/192. Who has the better hand? You can start with a wild card. You can start with an ACA. It doesn't matter what order, but you got it at the end of your time. Choose 3 ACA routes and 2 wild cards. James has been busily checking the Adventure Cycling Association website to determine which ones he is choosing. I have done no preparation whatsoever because I am giving you the rules right now, gentle listener. So at the end of this, go vote in our Google Forms, presumably. Pedalshift.net/192. James, I feel like I crushed you last week in the in the draft. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to select the first card of your full house. You have a choice between 3 ACA routes or 2 wild cards. Again, ACA routes are determined. Folks, you can go to adventurecycling.org to see their official routes. 3 official routes and 2 wildcards, which could be subcomponents of ACA routes, or they could be true wildcards. They could be point-to-point, reasonable point-to-points somewhere else in the world. James, Mysterious James, MJ, Sir, Sip.
With
what?
First,
with your first card. What is your first draw?
My first draw is the Great Divide mountain bike route.
Not surprising. An ACA route.
Yes.
Which precludes me from choosing that as one. Great Divide. Okay. Now, since you've been able to look at this map, I'm actually going to look at it. I just don't know how I could choose anything but the Pacific Coast route as one of my ACA routes. So I'm going to take Pac Coast. What a glorious damn ride, Pac Coast. That precludes you from taking that as an ACA choice. However, you could choose a subcomponent of that, or I could choose a subcomponent which does not really exist in the Great Divide. But anyways, James, your second card. What are you drawing here?
With my second card, I will choose a route that I hope to ride in the near future. Is the Idaho Hot Springs mountain bike route.
Solid choice. Idaho Hot Springs.
You can see a theme developing with my choices. I like the off-pavement, remote routes.
Interesting. Now, the question I have is, do I want to take a wild card now? The thing about wild card is that it can be any place. I'm going to take a route that I'm intending to do at some point, and it's going to be a wild card. It is a Eurovelo. It's a combination of Eurovelo routes, but I don't know them off the top of my head. But I'm going to take Paris to Brussels. Paris to Brussels, Belgium.
So you're choosing a wild card route with your second choice.
That is correct. Because I got to give you a chance to actually win this because I crushed you so badly in last week's episode. Paris to Brussels is my first wild card choice. So to sum up so far, our hands are James has the Great Divide, the Idaho Hot Springs as his 2 cards in the first couple of cards drawn. Mine, the Pacific Coast as one of my ACA routes, and Paris to Brussels. Folks who are voting that are in Europe, note for the record that I chose a European route before James did. Don't let that influence your vote, but I just thought I would mention that. International listeners, I have your back. James, what is your third card? Still very much ensconced in the ACA.
Yes. With my third choice, I will pick the Washington Parks route.
Ooh, solid. Washington Parks.
Yes, I do enjoy our national parks, in particular the mountains.
Now, the Washington Parks route, tell us a little bit about the Washington Parks route, because I think the others were fairly well known. We've talked about them in past episodes. I am less familiar with the Washington Parks route. What's that route? Is that Olympic National Park largely? What's the deal with that?
According to the ACA map, it's a double loop route that is from
Cedro
Woolly Washington.
So includes that's North Cascades National Park. Okay.
Yes, so that's like a roughly 300-mile loop, and then the second loop is from Elma like back to Cedra Woolley, and that's about a 550-mile loop. So yeah, so he gets
deep cut, but good one.
Yep,
really deep cut. I like that. Interesting, sir. I'm a fan. For my third card, I think I'm going to take. That's a tough call. I think I'm going to take the TransAm. TransAm is probably the most well-known cross-country route. It's the original bicentennial route. I think it's a nod to history of bicycle touring. I think that anybody who talks about cycling across the United States, their very first choice, the one that tends to be the one that people ride, probably the most ridden cross-country route, TransAmerica Trail. I'm taking that. The TransAm Trail is my second ACA route. James, you have 2 cards left. They are both wild cards. What is your next?
For my first wild card, I'm going to choose the Caraterra Estral, which is the route in Patagonia.
Oh, see, this is where I'm sure I'm misspelling it in our screen in front of us, but we will make sure that you have it corrected for the folks who read in the show notes. Again,
Pedalshift, it's a route in southern Chile.
Southern Chile. Have you ridden this before?
Yes.
Tell us more about it.
It's a beautiful route that is over 50% unpaved, and it goes from northern Chile down south through Patagonia, like all the way to the southern tip of the continent.
So it sounds pretty dope. That's pretty good.
Oh.
Interesting. That's your wild card. Interesting. So I have an AC. Okay, so once again to sum up, Mysterious James MJ has as his 3 of a kind, the Great Divide, the Idaho Hot Springs, and the Washington Parks. That's a solid 3 of a kind. His first wild card is the Caraterra Estral in Chile. Mine, I'm about to pick my 4th card, but my first 3 cards are the Pacific Coast, the TransAm, and Paris to Brussels. Let's see here. What do I want to pick? I can go a couple of different directions here. I could go wild card, or I could go with my my last of the ACA. I think I've already done one of the cross-country routes. And I am torn. I am truly torn here, James, because these are both routes that I want to ride in whole or in part at some point. And I know I can still... Oh, no, actually... Well, no, a wild card could also be an ACA route.
Mm-hmm.
Strikes me. So maybe I don't have to choose. But you don't have to know that as a strategy. I think that I am going to choose the Lewis and Clark route as my 3rd ACA route. And the reason why I think that is an amazing route is it's not a cross-country route, but it is full of history. And I think that the other thing that I like about it is that it is it goes to Astoria, Oregon, which has amazing beer, at Bowie Beer Company, Lewis and Clark. I'm typing this in, folks. Hang with me here. So not that, my cycling tour has to have anything to do with it, but one thing that's interesting from my perspective is that for me personally, I have a route. If I did the Lewis and Clark route, that would complete a cross-country tour for me if I only added in one other little piece. And that would be if I connected Cincinnati to St. Louis. So from a personal perspective, the Lewis and Clark route really fills in my personal piece-by-piece cross-country situation. Also, the Lewis and Clark route, if you've never seen it before, go to the ACA website and check it out, because it goes through some fantastic sections of the country that I think complement really well with the Trans Am. Now, the Trans Am is going to be going through, I believe, Yellowstone and a couple of other areas as well that are really fantastic. But the Lewis and Clark route goes through similarly awesome areas as well. Everything goes through. All roads go through Missoula if you're on an ACA route through the West. Did you go, James? Did you ever go to the ACA? You get the free ice cream in Missoula?
I rode to Missoula, but unfortunately I was there on a Sunday when they were closed.
Ah, bummer.
Yeah.
Now, you did go to, is it Yellow? What's the place? It's got a hostel for
Whitefish.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, the Whitefish Bike Retreat.
Tell us more about the Whitefish Bike Retreat. Pull the mic a little bit closer to you.
Yeah. Whitefish is on
north of Missoula.
Yeah, it's north of Missoula, and it's on the routes of both the Great Divide mountain bike route and I think maybe it's the Trans Am. So it's a crossroad of two routes.
It's the northern tier, I think.
Oh yeah, maybe the northern tier. Yeah. And I went to the Whitefish Bike Retreat that's run by Cricket Butler, and it's a fantastic retreat, and they have a campground there and private lodging for bike tourists. And Whitefish is a very cool,
very bikey.
Very bikey. It's a ski town, so it's very cool and hip in the summer, and then also in the winter with all the winter sports. I always take a day off in Whitefish to just spend the day there.
Yeah,
when I pass through.
I've been to Whitefish, but not since I've been in bikey mode. And Whitefish is a great town just to visit, no matter what. But from a bicycle tourist perspective, it's one of the towns I really want to get to.
Yep, they have Glacier Bike Shop, which is a very popular bike shop, very friendly, knowledgeable folks. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Whitefish.
One of the reasons why I'm glad I chose the Trans Am in my hand here is there is a bike shop, and forgive me, folks, in Kansas. There's a very famous bike shop in Kansas on the Trans Am. Caters to the folks who do the Trans Am race. It is literally an oasis. In fact, it's called Oasis in the Grass, or there's something about it, but it's you can spend the night there. You can do your laundry there. I've heard great things about it. I think I may even throw a few bucks at them. They did a GoFundMe for building out their hostel or something like that. I'll put the link in the show notes to that, but that's a place that I've been wanting to go to and visit. It feels like there's a few places in bicycle touring that feel like must visits. The place in Whitefish that you just described, place that's on my list here in my hand here on the Trans Am that I would love to visit someday in Kansas. So yeah. All right, James, fill out your hand. You've got, again, the Great Divide, the Idaho Hot Springs and Washington Parks on your ACA side. You've got the Caraterra, Estral in your wild card. What is your other wild card?
My final wild card is the PanAmerican Highway.
Nice choice.
Which is the route that goes from Alaska to Argentina.
You stole one from me, sir.
Yeah. The Caraterra Estral is the southern part of the PanAmerican Highway.
Yeah, I think it's long. But I think that's discreet enough to take it, because I was originally going to say that one of my wild cards was going to be something having to go to Tierra. But I think that's discreet enough. It's very solid, sir. Mm-hmm. That's a solid hand. And here's the thing. I think by choosing what I'm going to choose, because if I did not choose this, I think people would question me. I think folks would say,
"Oh, I know what it is."
What do you think it is?
C&O and Gap.
I'm taking the Gapco. Yeah, I'm taking the Gapco. Now, and if Judge's ruling was the Gapco is not is two routes, I would take the C&O, because we all know that I'm team C&O. But folks, I think it's funny. I've developed a bit of a reputation on this pod for being, shall we say, an ambassador for the C&O and for and to a limited extent the Gap too. It's funny. I'm deep into the Gap. I'm down with the Gap, but I live literally on the C&O. James and I are sitting literally 7.8 miles, and yes, I have measured it from the Potomac River and a questionably legal crossing to the C&O, which we have both crossed. One of us has gotten caught by CSX, which is wrong. as Brock Dittus of the Sprocket Podcast would say. That would be wrong to get cross such an illegal crossing. But in any event, the Gapco that's got to be my wild card. It's my home trail. It is. I try to ride that route at least once a year, if not fully through. Last year, in 2019, I was very happy to include that as part of my DC to Cincinnati ride. It is worth the trip. It is worth doing. James, you haven't done it in a minute. When was the last time you did it?
The last time when we did it. When
that was a minute. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. What year was that? When we did Pittsburgh to DC? I mean,
we're gonna have to look that up.
Yeah. But that's the last time I did the
4 years ago.
Yeah, the whole thing.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, it's been since then.
How would you say? And it's different. I love the Pacific Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I love all of the California routes that you are in your backyard. But how would you say? Where would you rank that on just from a bicycle touring route amongst all of the ones that you have done?
I really enjoy it because it's largely car free.
Yeah.
The logistics of it are simple, but not in a, I don't mean that in a dismissive
Camping
way.
every 5 miles,
yeah,
a town every day.
Yep. Like the route, it's a straightforward route, and your resupply points and water points are very well defined. So I really enjoy it. It's beautiful, and
history.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. It's very enjoyable. How long did it take us? A week? I can't remember, actually.
Well, if you're going to do the whole thing, I 3 days to do the CNO and 2 to 3. Very casual 3, reasonable 2 for the gap.
Okay, so within a week,
it's a 5-day ride. I do it in 5 days.
Okay. Yeah.
I budget. Well, we talked about this offline. The reason why I built in the bonus day that I was able to take off. Oh, actually, if you listen to last week's episode, I talked about the headwinds, and I took my 0 day because I had built up a day. I scheduled 6 days for the Gapco, and I did it in 5, which is what I tend to do it in. Yeah, I think 5 is my wheelhouse for that trip. It's a little aggressive to do 2 days on the Gap, but it's not unreasonable because it's 2 75-mile days basically, and unfortunately the camping point is not great unless and until they build a good hiker biker option in Ohiopyle. When they do that, which they keep threatening to do, Doug Regner, I'm talking to you, my friend. You've said this is coming, and I believe you. I believe in you, sir. But when that comes, that is the perfect midway point for the two of them. Until that point comes, you can have a slightly longer day if you stop in. Oh, what was that town that was totally closed with the Confluence? We camped there once. That's the one with the town that was mostly closed for us, and they have the Army Corps of Engineers site.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Decent campsite. Almost always have many amenities closed, and unfortunately, a lot of that, the town seems like it's alive and kicking, but a lot of the amenities are often closed. But I will say, I think that because I'm stupid and I do it in a lot of off-season times. I think during on-season it's great. I love the Gap. Every time I talk about the Gap, I always feel like I'm compensating because I overcompensate. I'm like, the CNO is the best, because I keep reading a lot of folks who kind of diss on the CNO compared to the Gap. But I love the Gap. I love the amenities. It's such a good thing. So the Gapco is my wild card, folks. Here we go. Let's compare hands here. James, solid hand. I'm thinking this is a much closer vote this week. Last week I crushed you. I feel like, but this week your poker hand, the 3 ACA, your 3 of a kind, the Great Divide, the Idaho Hot Springs, and Washington Parks. By the way, all ACA routes, but also 3 of a kind in their own way. I like what you chose. The wild cards, a decidedly Central and South American feel here. The Caraterra Estral in Chile. The PanAmerican Highway, which spans multiple countries, but is a fascinating and excellent choice. That is a solid hand. My choice, the Pacific Coast. I mean, one of my favorite routes in the world. The TransAmerican Trail, one I have not done, but it is the gold standard, James. Would you say? Gold standard?
Yeah.
Hard to
That's
argue.
where we got our start.
Yeah. The Lewis and Clark Trail. I think I toyed between the Lewis and Clark and the Northern Tier. I really went between that. If I'd gone Northern Tier, that would have been 3 cross-country routes. So they would have been truly 3 of a kind, but I do think that the Lewis and Clark one is unique enough that I think it works really well as its own. It's a route that I've been intending to do for a long time. My wild cards, Paris to Brussels, my one international piece. Europe, folks, by the way, I chose that number 2. I just want to mention, folks who are in Europe who are voting at pedalshift.net/192, I will have you know that I was the one who chose Europe as my number 2 choice. No influence whatsoever, but just fact. Paris to Brussels. It is a Eurovelo route. I believe it's one, if not, I think it's 2 separate Eurovelo routes, if I'm not mistaken. The reason why I chose that, by the way, folks, is that I have a cousin who lives in Brussels, and I'm in Paris usually once a year. Maybe this year, Paris to Brussels is happening. I'm hoping for it. It's a 2-day trip. One I've intended to do for a while. Finally, my last wild card, the Great Allegheny Passage and the C&O National Historic Park towpath. Folks, pedalshift.net/192. This is a squeaker. I think this is a squeaker. Europe, you're going to have to help me out on this one. Only one of us chose a European route. Folks in America, I don't know. That's a tough call. Check out the hands that we dealt ourselves at pedalshift.net/192. James, any last thoughts? Any advocacy for your hand over mine?
I think I've got this one. Actually, I feel I'm confident. I'm confident.
This is for the voters to decide. Europe, help me.
Yeah, there is a pretty stark distinction in that if you look at the percentage of the routes that are paved versus unpaved. So you have the Gapco, which is unpaved, and the rest of yours is paved. And mine,
Paris to Brussels, I believe, is on a lot of canal paths.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
I'm not familiar with that route. So, but yeah, and mine, I think the Washington Parks route.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, but the other ones are primarily like the Great Divide, the Idaho Hot Springs route, the Caraterra Estral, and the PanAmerican Highway. Yeah. I'm
going to argue, for somebody who doesn't understand poker, you technically chose a better full house, and here's why. 3 ACA routes that are all mixed bag off road, right? They fit together. Mm-hmm. And then your 2, you've got your Central and South American routes as your 2 of a kind. That feels like a full house to me. I've got my ACAs are very. I've got a cross country north to south. I've got a cross country east to west, or vice versa. And then I've got the Lewis and Clark. If I had chosen the North American or the Northern Tier, the Northern Tier, I feel like that would have fit together a little bit better. But I'm gonna hold by. I feel like I picked 3 crown jewels of the American Cycling Association there. I think you picked some very nice choices. However, I think I picked crown jewels. So, folks, that's my pitch for my ACA cards. And for my wild cards, look, folks, that's why they're wild cards. They don't need to fit together. They just need to be awesome. The City of Light to the city that is the head of the European Union. Those are 2 international jewel cities that I am cycling between. And then, of course, the Gap and the C&O. I mean, literally, people come from all over the globe to come to that. So I think my hand is better than James's. But, please vote. Who will win this? James or Tim? Vote at pedalshift.net/192. James, last thoughts. Thank you, James. James, 3 podcasts in a row. You have owned. It is the month of MJ on the Pedalshift project. Any final closing thoughts on the month of MJ?
I'm happy to do it. I'll see you again next year.
By the way, also, I would like to note for the record that this is James's 5th episode on the Pedalshift project. James now qualifies as a 5-timer. He will get a 5-timers patch if I brought them with me. If not, I'll have to send one to him. But James, congratulations. 5-timers club on the Pedalshift project. It only took you how many?
5 years.
5 years. 5 years. Very appropriate. Folks, vote for Tim. Pedalshift.net/182. Folks, thanks so much for closing out the month of Mysterious James. I really hope you enjoyed that run. He has committed to returning at some point down the line, but I think it might be a minute because, of course, it took about 100 episodes between the first appearance and these 3 in a row. But I do think that the Bicycle Touring Draft will be an annual type of an event, so we'll have to be at least checking him out for that. So, in any event, next week, very excited. It is the beginning of the Kessel run of shows. It is going to be the preview episode of the Kessel Run in Central Florida. It's going to be a preview episode. Then, of course, we're going to be taking a week off, doing a best of, and then all of the episodes, probably 2 to 3 episodes, all around the Central Florida Bike Tour here in January, February of 2020. So really excited to bring all of that for you and super excited for this next tour. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours like this year's DC to Cincinnati bike tour. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Stuart Buchan, Mr. T, Roxy Arning, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Paul Culbertson, Scott Culbertson, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robert, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtold, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Goffman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grosbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinhardt, John Lecco, Stephen Granada, Philip Muller, Kevin Olhausen, and Robert Lackey. And thanks also to all past and anonymous contributors for helping make the show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.